Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I had to think for a minute. Yesterday was completely in the weeds. All right. Good morning. All right, you guys, this month is almost over. We're almost into November already. We're 9 days away from November. How is that possible? I just can't get over it. All right. Story of the vineyard workers, Matthew 21 through 16. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early one morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay the normal daily wage and sent them out to work. At 9 o'clock in the morning, he was passing through the marketplace and saw some people standing around doing nothing. So he hired them, telling them he would pay them whatever was right at the end of the day. So they went to work in the vineyard. At noon and again at 3 o'clock, he did the same thing. At 5 o'clock that afternoon, he was in town and again saw some more people standing around. He asked them, "Why haven't you been working today?" They replied, "Because no one hired us." The landowner told them, "Then go out and join the others in my vineyard." That evening, he told the foreman to call the workers in and pay them, beginning with the last workers first. When those hired at 5 o'clock were paid, each received a full day's wage. When those hired first came in to get their pay, they assumed they would receive more, but they too were paid a day's wage. When they received their pay, they protested to the owner. "Those people worked only 1 hour, and yet you've paid them just as much as you paid us, who worked all day in the scorching heat." He answered one of them, "Friend, I haven't been unfair. Didn't you agree to work all day for the usual wage? Take your money and go. I wanted to pay this last worker the same as you. Is it against the law for me to do what I want with my money? Should I be jealous because I am kind? Should you be jealous because I am kind to others? So those who are last now will be first then, and those who are first will be last." Jesus again predicts his death. Mark 10:32 through 34. They were now on the way up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was walking ahead of them. The disciples were filled with awe, and the people following behind were overwhelmed with fear. Taking the 12 disciples aside, Jesus once more began to describe everything that was about to happen to him. "Listen," he said, "we're going up to Jerusalem, where the Son of Man will be betrayed to the leading priests and teachers of religious law. They will sentence him to die and hand him over to the Romans. They will mock him, spit on him, flog him with a whip, and kill him. But after 3 days, he will rise again." Matthew 20:17 through 19. As Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took 12 disciples aside privately and told them what was going to happen. "Listen," he said, "we're going up to Jerusalem, where the Son of Man will be betrayed to the leading priests and the teachers of religious law. They will sentence him to die. Then they will hand him over to the Romans to be mocked, flogged with a whip, and crucified. But on the third day, he will be raised from the dead." Luke 18:31 through 34. Taking the 12 disciples aside, Jesus said, "Listen, we're going up to Jerusalem, where all the predictions of the prophets concerning the Son of Man will come true. He will be handed over to the Romans, and he will be mocked, treated shamefully, and spit upon. They will flog him with a whip and kill him, but on the third day he will rise again." But they didn't understand any of this. The significance of his words was hidden from them, and they failed to grasp what he was talking about. Jesus teaches about serving others. Mark 10:35 through 45. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came over and spoke to him. "Teacher," they said, "we want you to do us a favor." "What is your request?" he asked. They replied, "When you sit on your glorious throne, we want to sit in places of honor next to you, one on your right and the other on your left." But Jesus said to them, "You don't know what you are asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I am about to drink? Are you able to be baptized with the baptism of suffering I must be baptized with?" "Oh, yes," they replied, "we are able." Then Jesus told them, "You will indeed drink from my bitter cup and be baptized with my baptism of suffering, but I have no right to say who will sit on my right or my left. God has prepared those places for the ones he has chosen." When the 10 other disciples heard what James and John had asked, they were indignant. Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers of this world lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But Sebastian, can you go lay down with your latte, please?" Go lay down. But among you it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must be the slave of everyone else. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Matthew 20 through 28. Then the mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus with her sons. She knelt respectfully to ask a favor. "What is your request?" he asked. She replied, "In your kingdom, please let my two sons sit in the place of honor next to you, one on your right and the other on your left." But Jesus answered them by saying, "You don't know what you are asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I am about to drink?" "Oh, yes," they replied, "we are able." Jesus told them, You will indeed drink from my bitter cup, but I have no right to say who will sit on my right or on my left. My Father has prepared those places for the ones he has chosen." When the 10 other disciples heard what James and John had asked, they were indignant. But Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers of this world lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you, it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must be your slave. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus heals two blind men. Matthew 20 29 through 34. As Jesus and the disciples left the town of Jericho, a large crowd followed behind. Two blind men were sitting beside the road. When they heard that Jesus was coming that way, they began shouting, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." "Be quiet," the crowd yelled at them, but they only shouted louder, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." When Jesus heard them, he stopped and called, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Lord," they said, "we want to see." Jesus felt sorry for them and touched their eyes. Instantly, they could see. Then they followed him. Jesus heals blind Bartimaeus. Mark 10:46 through 52. Then they reached Jericho, and as Jesus and his disciples left town, a large crowd followed him. A blind beggar named Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, was sitting beside the road. When Bartimaeus heard that Jesus of Nazareth was nearby, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." "Be quiet," many of the people yelled at him, but he only shouted louder, "Son of David, have mercy on me." When Jesus heard him, he stopped and said, "Tell him to come here." So they called the blind man. "Cheer up," they said. "Come on, he's calling you." Bartimaeus threw aside his coat, jumped up, and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked. "My rabbi," the blind man said, "I want to see." And Jesus said to him, "Go, for your faith has healed you." Instantly the man could see, and then he followed Jesus down the road. Luke 18:35 through 43. As Jesus approached Jericho, a blind beggar was sitting beside the road. When he heard the noise of a crowd going past, he asked what was happening. They told him that Jesus the Nazarene was going by. So he began shouting, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." "Be quiet," the people in front yelled at him. But he only shouted louder, "Son of David, have mercy on me." When Jesus heard him, he stopped and ordered that the man be brought to him. As the man came near, Jesus asked him, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Lord," he said, "I want to see." And Jesus said, "All right, receive your sight. Your faith has healed you." Instantly, the man could see, and he followed Jesus, praising God, and all who saw it praised God too. Jesus and Zacchaeus, Luke 19:1 through 10. Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. "Zacchaeus," he said, "quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today." Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. But the people were displeased. "He has gone to be a guest of a notorious sinner," they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, "I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord, and if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much." Jesus responded, "Salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost." Story of the 10 servants, Luke 19:11 through 27. The crowd was listening to everything Jesus said, and because he was nearing Jerusalem, he told them a story to correct the impression that the kingdom of God would begin right away. He said a nobleman was called away to a distant empire to be crowned a king and then return. Before he left, he called together 10 of his servants and divided among them 10 pounds of silver, saying, "Invest this for me while I am gone." But his people hated him and sent a delegation after him to say, "We do not want him to be our king." After he was crowned king, he returned and called in the servants to whom he had given the money. He wanted to find out what their profits were. The first servant reported, "Master, I invested your money and made 10 times the original amount." "Well done," the king exclaimed. "You are a good servant. You have been faithful, and with the little you have been faithful with the little I entrusted to you, so you will be a governor of 10 cities as your reward." The next servant reported, "Master, I invested your money and made 5 times the original amount." "Well done," the king said. "You will be governor over 5 cities." But the third servant brought back the original amount of money and said, "Master, I hid your money and kept it safe. I was afraid because you are a hard man to deal with, taking what isn't yours and harvesting crops you didn't plant." "You wicked servant," the king roared, "your own words condemn you. If you knew that I'm a hard man who takes what isn't mine and harvests crops I didn't plant, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it." Then, turning to the others standing nearby, the king ordered, "Take the money from this servant and give it to the one who has 10 pounds. "But, master," they said, "he already has 10 pounds. "Yes," the king replied, "and to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. And as for these enemies of mine who didn't want me to be their king, bring them in and execute them right here in front of me." All right. All right, we are on page 109. I haven't read this the last couple of days, so we are picking up at like the second paragraph. "A friend of mine went with our church's mission team to Lebanon recently. They served Syrian refugees, some who had lived in the camps for years. Most fled the civil war in their own country and yearn for the day when they can return. Many lost relatives to the war, spouses, children, parents, and siblings. While serving at the camps, our group distributed food and clothes, which would disappear immediately into the vast maw of need. They gathered up children and played with them, acting out Bible stories. They visited people in their tents or in a corner of a vacant building where the family had taken up residence as best they could, to listen to their stories and share a sip of tea. When possible, our group shared their faith, and over again the group anguished over how endless was the need, how overwhelming the distress, and what comparatively little they could afford. They couldn't fix the problem. They felt impotent. As the group struggled with their frustrations, one of the refugees spoke of how valuable it was they were simply present with them, that the group had come such a distance just to let their hosts know they had not been forgotten. She explained it this way: "Your tears are like jewels to us. Jewels have no light of their own. They simply catch and reflect the light coming from outside them, and smooth jewels don't sparkle. In order to sparkle, gems have to be distressed. They have to be cut, chiseled, their surfaces ground. It's what makes them jewels." My friend met one young woman whose story included her marriage at 15 years old to a man who ended up dying in the Civil War. Then she remarried only to have her new husband divorce her for not having produced children. She fled her home because her whole city had been bombed. There was darkness everywhere. In the course of their conversation, my friend revealed that she too was going through a divorce back home. After many years of marriage, her husband decided he had had enough. As they talked, they drew strength from each other and promised to stay in touch to offer each other encouragement. When she got home, my friend told me about how, in the midst of her present darkness, the whole experience gave her hope and purpose. for the inevitable change coming to her life. The light we receive may be little more than a headlight on a wintry night, reminding us that we are not alone. Or perhaps it's a tear wept in mutual sadness, sparkling like a jewel, a glint of light which makes the darkness less lonely. Sometimes it's the darkness in life that most clearly reveals the beauty of the light shining within it. That's the way it is with light. Without shadows, you barely notice it. Minus shadows, everything becomes flat and bland. It's the interplay of shadows and light that creates stunning photographs. The light cuts through the overcast. It invades the gloom, giving texture and breathing life into a scene. Dark with no light is nothingness. Light shining amidst the shadows is beauty. An amazing palette of colors glinting across the landscape as the sun breaks above the horizon and turns a desolate night into a brilliant morning. That's what makes us catch our breath and realize we are in the presence of beauty. It all has to do with the light shining in the dark. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Sebastian, you are driving me bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. All right, let me go back to the chat here. Please pray for my son's family. Having trouble finding the right meds for his ADHD for my grandson, Ryan. He's becoming... Bassy! He's becoming violent at times. They think this may be caused from too much pressure adjusting to middle school. I pray they get answers today. It's so hard. ADHD. And I think so much of it has to do with the junk that's in our food, the chemicals, and there's the garbage that's in our food. There's a song called Son of David, and now it'll be stuck in my head for the day. I don't know that song, Jamie. Thanks, James. You like my hair today? I got my fairy hair fixed. I went and I did it myself. I did a different color. I did copper, and I really like it. The world shouts at us to stop yelling, calling for Jesus. We have to, yeah, for sure, Shirley. Now he's not bonkers. He's just laying there. Bassy. Sebastian, come here. Sebastian, come here. He's such a little brat. Oh my word. All right. Let's go ahead and end in prayer today. God, our Father, we thank you for this day and this time together. Thank you for your word. Thank you for the reminders of your love for us in your word, woven within the words that we read. Thank you for teaching us through your word, reminding us of what it means to be a follower of Christ. God, I pray for each person here and all of the concerns that they have. I pray for Susan and her grandson as they work through finding the right medication for him. I just pray that you will bring wisdom to the doctors, bring peace and calm to the situation, and surround Ryan with your presence and your peace today. God, help us today to honor you with everything that we do. Help us to just make every decision that we make today be a natural decision to honor you. That is the first and foremost thing in our mind is, does our decision, our words, or our actions honor our God? Thank you for your love, for your grace, for the peace you give us, and for your mercy. In your precious name, amen. All right, my friends. Oh, he does. He knows what he's doing. There's no doubt. Sometimes he's just a brat. Yesterday, I didn't feel good. And so after devotions, I laid down and I laid on the couch almost the entire day trying to feel better. I got up, left, and went and got some medication at one point that helped. But we slept on the couch for quite a few hours. I laid around on the couch for quite a few hours, and he never left the couch the whole day. So he had a lazy day. So now he's going to have a day of acting the fool, I think, playing with his toys. So, all right. Well, I might go live for breakfast. I was going to make a chocolate cherry bowl with cottage cheese. Excuse me. My husband just got home from the car dealership getting the van looked at. Um, because we had some tire issues and we need that resolved because he's got to drive me to Charlotte tomorrow. Because I can't drive myself now because my car, we hit a bad pothole and we destroyed a rim on the car. Absolutely destroyed a rim. So we had to order a new wheel for our car. So my husband has to take me to Charlotte tomorrow and drop me off instead of me driving myself to the airport. So, I am going to try to go live for breakfast, hopefully, if I can get myself to get up and do it. But I will not be live for breakfast for the next week because I will be in Nashville. So maybe possibly myself and the other Team Joyful Mess coaches will go live for breakfast one morning and show you what we're eating at the hotel. But so I'll try to go live this morning. If I don't make it, I'm sorry. I'll see you all tomorrow for devotions. I love you guys.